Hey, what's up guys? Joker here. Hope you all had a great weekend. Today we're going to be kicking the week off with some news in the world of tech and PC gaming. First up, the main topic of today will be on Watch Dogs Legion, which got a big reveal, although, we already knew about the game, but we finally got some gameplay and performance information, graphics options, stuff like that. So we've got some information regarding that is leading me to be very concerned about the way the performance is going to be in this game. We've also got some information on some Nvidia RTX cards reaching their end of life and Nvidia discontinuing them, and also everything you need to know about the launch of Death Stranding on the PC, which will be coming in less than 24 hours, or about 24 hours actually. Did you just finish building a sweet gaming rig only to have this happen to you? Not to worry, because your CD Key has you covered with Windows 10 Pro licenses for under $18. And if you head over there right now, you could save 20% off with my code JPD20 at checkout. You'll receive your key within seconds, and then just click the start button and type activate to find the Windows activation screen, and all you gotta do then is paste your code in. For more info as well as that coupon code, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. So first up, as I said, the main topic of discussion of this video is going to be Watch Dogs Legion. Yesterday, Ubisoft held their big E3 type press conference, although obviously there was no E3 this year, but they did an event kind of similar to what they would maybe do there, like a stage show, but not a stage show necessarily, because the world in 2020. But yeah, obviously they showed off some of their big upcoming titles like Watch Dogs Legions, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6, which is confirmed as Giancarlo Esposito is going to be in that, which we talked about the leaked rumor on Friday. So that is 100% confirmed, and it is looking really good. So lots of good positive things coming out of the Ubisoft Forward event. Also, I'll give you some details in a moment on how you can get Watch Dogs 2 for free, even though the event is over now. You can actually still go ahead and claim a free copy of Watch Dogs 2 if you have not played it yet. But Watch Dogs Legion. So, yeah, this was the main topic I wanted to talk about. Digital Foundries did a sort of deep dive on at least stuff that they can talk about so far in regards to the graphics in the game, which is going to support ray tracing, ray traced reflections, to be more specifically, and it will also have DLSS 2.0 when the game does come out towards the end of October. So pretty high-end graphical features. Obviously, once the next generation of consoles come out, we'll probably expect to see that stuff in there as well. But really the thing that alarmed me most about Digital Foundry's video was the fact that they were playing the game at 1080p on an RTX 2080 Ti, and they had to lock it at 30 frames per second. Ubisoft had it locked at 30 frames per second by default when they played the game, and when they tried unlocking that to 60 frames per second, they were unable to get a 60 frames per second experience in the game with an RTX 2080 Ti. So I assume if they were not even getting close to 60 FPS, it had to be running pretty bad with the ray tracing features enabled and all of that. And they did note that they were not using DLSS. They didn't get around to testing with DLSS enabled. So maybe using that, you might be able to get 60 frames per second. But just like in a couple weeks ago, we talked about Cyberpunk and that game struggling to run with ray tracing features. Again, here with Watch Dogs Legion, a $1,200 graphics card unable to run this game, at 1080p on ultra settings is just piss poor optimization and a bad utilization, I feel, of the ray tracing features. And I feel like we're probably just falling victim here again, not only to ray tracing features, but also the Disrupt engine, which was used on the previous Watch Dogs game, and they're just using a improved and modified version of it, and I'm air quoting that because, it doesn't really seem to be that improved or modified really that much in terms of giving us a good quality PC port if it is running this poorly. Because even if it's running 30, 40 frames per second, if we turn off ray tracing, maybe we're going to be getting somewhere in the realm of 60 to 70 FPS. Still, again, at 1080p on an RTX 2080 Ti. An RTX 2080 Ti should be able to manage well above 60 frames per second at 1080p on pretty much any game that is out right now. And Watch Dogs Legion, while it looks good with the ray tracing features and stuff, on the reflections look good, overall the textures and some of the things in the environment really aren't all that impressive. The only thing really impressive about it in terms of graphics to me was the ray traced reflections, but it doesn't really seem like anyone's actually going to be able to run that unless they have a $1,200 graphics card and then want to play at 1080p and then cut that resolution down and chop it with running on DLSS or doesn't look super sharp technology from Nvidia. So I've got a snippet here from Digital Foundry's video, which I'm going to go ahead and kind of scrub through here quickly so we can take a look at the graphics options, so we can get an inside look at that. They did show these in their video, but it was kind of very quick, and they just really kind of cycled through them. So I wanted to just do a little bit of a closer look at them since I can kind of freeze frame here and stuff. But again, you can see they're running a 2080 Ti at 1080p. Monitor refresh rate is just on auto. VSync is on. And then they had the FPS locked at 30 frames per second, which is pretty poor that they need to do that on a $1,200 graphics card. Continuing on here through this, we get into the graphics options. So you can see on here they're running Ultra on every setting here, although headlight shadows could have been pushed up a little bit from there. The reflections, they were not able to adjust, probably because the ray tracing was enabled, but they are running in DirectX 12, which you would need to utilize to be able to run ray tracing effects. And there is appear to be a toggle here for a different DirectX option, which I would assume is DirectX 11. But graphics quality, geometry, environment, texture resolution, texture filtering, and shadows are all bumped up to Ultra. And hopefully there's one killer option in here where you can just drop it down and get a massive boost in performance. I really do hope that is the case. They are running depth of field here as they kind of scroll through these. Going down here, motion blur they had enabled for some absurd reason. I don't know why you would leave that on. Bloom was enabled. Ambient occlusion is just toggled to on, and it's hard to say if there is another option beyond on. Like maybe there's an HBAO Plus option or some other form of proprietary ambient occlusion like SSBC or SSBC Plus, which Ubisoft has utilized in a wide number of their games in the past, and actually runs very well and looks equivalent to something like HBAO or HBAO Plus. For post-process anti-aliasing, they are running TAA here, but it does look like there's 3 more options there, probably FXAA off, and then maybe something in the middle there, maybe like SMAA. So that would be nice if SMAA was included. I personally prefer to use that. Subsurface scattering is at the highest available setting, which looks like it is on high. And then we get down into ray tracing, and we can see ray trace reflections are set to Ultra, and there are a few other quality presets here, but it doesn't really tell us exactly what they do. It could affect things like the resolution of the reflections in the game, or how distant the reflections work in real time with the ray trace reflections, or just how many objects in the game world, use ray trace reflections. They mentioned in their video that things like the body of water in London, the River Thames, was actually using standard screen space reflections and not ray trace reflections. But it looks like things like buildings, cars, puddles on the ground, and other objects throughout the majority of the game world are using ray trace reflections, but there are going to be some that are still using SSR effects. Also, as you can see there, we do have DLSS on here, and it has a few different options that you can enable for it, probably for the intensity of it or things like that. And yeah, right there, it's toggled off, and they didn't bother running it on. I really wish that they did. Hopefully at some point we get to see that. And it's nice to see that there are some extra options here for DLSS, things like sharpness, extra details, which it says modify the level of detail for geometry of objects depending on distance. The higher the setting, the more detailed distant objects will be. Only available if the geometry setting is set to Ultra. So it's nice that we have a couple of options here for DLSS to figure out what it's actually working on. And then there's also a temporal upscaling option. But they had that maxed out, so they were running at their native 1080p resolution, which again, as I mentioned, the 2080 Ti struggled at quite a bit. So that has me concerned for how well this game is going to run on lower-end hardware, even with dropping down settings and not using ray tracing, because if a 2080 Ti is getting around 30 frames per second, even with ray tracing on, it's probably going to barely manage 60 FPS and up, even with ray tracing turned off. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. That's just common knowledge with, if you know how these cards handle ray tracing, how much of an impact they have. Even if the frame rate was doubled, that would be like a best case scenario here. So we're still looking at a card that would probably average 60 frames per second at 1080p Ultra, but might even have some drops down below that. So I just wanted to bring this to your guys' attention in case you're curious about this game. I'm concerned about it. I definitely look forward to playing it when it does finally come out. I enjoyed Watch Dogs 2 quite a bit. The first one, not so much, but the second one I did think was a lot better in terms of story, gameplay, mission structure, and stuff like that, and the visuals are very good, although that game was not perfect in terms of performance either. That thing would seriously just absolutely rape your CPU and still struggles to run for me to this day. 4K Ultra on a 2080 Ti. Most modern games, even brand new games that come out like Death Stranding tomorrow, I'm expecting to be able to max out. Watch Dogs 2, which is several years older, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 years old at this point, still can't manage to do 4K Ultra on an older title. So yeah, Watch Dogs 2 though, continuing on with the story, good transition there. If you do want to play it, you can actually get it for free right now. I'm not sure how much of a limited time this is going to be. Apparently, this was initially supposed to be given away just during the Ubisoft Forward live stream if you registered with a Ubisoft Rewards account and you watched the actual event. You could go ahead and grab Watch Dogs 2, but because so many people were at the same time trying to activate and register your Ubisoft Rewards account, they ended up crashing the Ubisoft server. So that appears, for at least for now, that Ubisoft is extending that offer further, and it's still available right now. I'll have a link to this page right here, the Ubisoft Forward Rewards page, which it says all you have to do is register here to claim your Ubisoft Forward Rewards, which is a free copy of Watch Dogs 2 on the PC, which after you register, it will be added into your Uplay library very shortly after going ahead and registering that account. So if you look down below in the description, I'll have a one-tab link, which is usually what I use to compile all of the sources for my videos. So if you go ahead and click into that, one of the links in there will be over to the Ubisoft Forward Rewards page, or you could just Google it or whatever. Register an account, you get a free copy of Watch Dogs 2. It's a great game, and I do recommend you trying it if you've not gotten around to playing it yet. Next up, I did want to talk about the Nvidia GeForce RTX cards, which appear to be getting discontinued. At least some of the models of the RTX cards are being discontinued by Nvidia and reaching their end of life, if this rumor from the Chinese website IT Home is to be believed, who are currently stating that the RTX 2080 Ti, 2080 Super, 2070 Super, and RTX 2070 are all now at end of life, making room for Nvidia to push forward with production of Ampere RTX graphics cards, which we don't have an official release date or anything on these cards really yet. Nvidia has been completely mum on this, and we'll probably won't see any further information until next month, although in this rumor from IT Home, and again, take this all with a grain of salt, they did mention that the release date would actually be on September 17th, and we would likely get an announcement in August, as this is almost exactly a year from when the 2 years after the RTX 20 series came out, which were announced on August 20th. That was at Gamescom 2018, and then the cards came out themselves on September 20th. So it kind of sounds like it would make sense for them to go ahead and announce it. I mean, all the rumors up until this point in time have been pointing to these cards coming out in September, the third quarter of 2020. So things appear to be on track with that if you believe the rumors, which I personally do. We've had some pretty good leaks and rumors before this, from solid sources. So this is just kind of continuing along with that as far as the release date is concerned. But then, the end of life being reached on these other cards, that is new information, which would make it look like Nvidia is pushing ahead with Ampere production, and they're going to go ahead and stop producing these cards. Last up, before we go ahead and get on out of here, Death Stranding, as most of you know, is finally coming out on the PC tomorrow. Came out on consoles about half a year ago, and now we are going to be getting it on the PC, and I cannot wait to play it. Preload has begun as of yesterday, so you can go ahead and grab that. I picked it up on Steam, and I already preloaded it. It was a 63 gigabyte download, so if you have a slow internet, now is a good time to go ahead and get that preload started if you did intend to pre-order it. But I mean, reviews are already out there for the game, so I have a feeling like most people already know whether or not Death Stranding is going to be a game for them, as it appears to sort of be a love it or hate it type of gameplay experience. For me, I think it looks good. I've loved Kojima's previous games, and even though this is nothing like the Metal Gear Solid series, I still like his style of storytelling and the cinematic cutscenes and stuff. So I still want to play this game, even though it's kind of like a walking simulator. I've played truck driving simulators and stuff like that, which don't seem to be that different from the core gameplay mechanics of Death Stranding. So I'm hoping I like it. I really just don't know yet, but I'm curious, and I'm going in with an open mind and some mediocre expectations. I don't want to say I have high expectations. I have high expectations for the visuals and the performance, which I'll be posting a benchmark video for the game tomorrow, as it is going to be coming out at 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Steam, and I believe it's also on the Epic Store as well, but it's coming out for all the stores at the same exact time, so you don't have to worry about any of that. I did read that it does have de novo DRM, so if that's a negative thing to you, be aware of it, but it's probably not going to impact performance at all. But if you are a dirty pirate, you may be waiting a few weeks or maybe even months until the game gets cracked, or it might get cracked tomorrow, 5 minutes after it comes out. We really just don't know. But I've already bought the game on Steam. I'll be playing it tomorrow, benchmarking it, and hopefully it's good. I'm looking forward to it. But that's all I've got for you guys today. I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week, as I'll be seeing you throughout it with some more news videos as we get some interesting topics. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow for another video. Ta-ra.